Want a way to generate monthly cash flow that's more profitable and lower stress even than a well-managed rental property? How's 12% or more per year sound to you? I'm Bryan Ellis. I'll tell you how to do it right now in episode 153.
You're listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio, America's only podcast exclusively for affluent, self-directed investors, where each day of the week you receive innovative investment strategy and deadly accurate market analysis that's untainted by Wall Street and unblemished by government propaganda, all in 7 minutes or less. Coming to you now from iTunes, Stitcher, and SDIRadio.com, here's your host, Bryan Ellis.
Hello, SDI Nation. Welcome to the podcast of record for savvy, self-directed investors like you. People. I've been getting a lot of notes lately saying something like, Bryan, you used to talk a lot about real estate notes as the best asset class, and now all I hear you talking about is rental property. Aren't notes still a good option? My friends, not only are high-quality real estate notes still a good option, but they remain a much better foundation for your portfolio than anything else, including rental property. For those of you who may be new listeners, a note, sometimes called a mortgage, is just a loan for which real estate is placed as collateral. It's a very simple thing. It's just a loan. That's all there is to it. And usually, when a person wants to invest in notes, what they're looking to do is find a note that's been originated or created by a lender, and then the investor, who is somebody like you, would buy that note from the lender in order to generate a good yield on their capital. And you know what? That kind of deal does happen every day, but generally speaking, not with individual investors. Sure, there are individuals who have the connections to pull off good note deals, but that's rare. But that doesn't matter, my friends, because there's a much better way, and that way is to create your very own notes with exactly the terms you want from scratch. Now, my friends, I'll quickly explain the process to you. There are a few of you in this audience who are do-it-yourselfers, and we'll take what I give to you right now and run with it. And that's great, but for the vast majority of my audience who are true passive investors, you should listen in for a moment to understand the process. And then in just a moment, I'll tell you how to have it all done for you totally passively. So here's how it works. The basic idea is that you'll buy a house and then you'll transform that house into a paying real estate note. How? You'll sell that house using a strategy called seller financing, in which the buyer, rather than going to the bank to get a loan, that buyer will give you a down payment, and then they'll also make payments to you for the balance for years to come, just as if you were the bank. When you do this, you become the bank and you've transformed your house into a cash flowing note. But what kind of house does this work best with? Well, there are three simple financial standards you should look for. Curiously, the standards are all related to rental rates. Why? What you'll find is that by targeting renters who want to be buyers with a special message, that message being you can now own a property for what you're paying in rent, then you'll find it quite simple to convert houses into notes, and that's the whole goal. Thus, all of the standards involve the prevailing market rental rate for the property in question. We're going to use the rental rate to back into what we charge the buyer when they buy the property from us via seller financing. So, standard number one is rent to value, or RTV. Just divide the value of the property by the monthly rent. What you're looking for is a number below 100. Standard number two is rent to price. Just divide the actual price you're paying by the monthly rent. What you're looking for is a number that's no higher than 80, and the lower the better. Standard number three is rent to recurring costs, or RTR. Just divide the sum total amount that has to be paid each month to cover property taxes, insurance, and any servicing fees. Divide that by the monthly rent amount. A good standard here is that the recurring cost should be at most 25 to 30% of the monthly rental amount. Now, that's all just a bunch of mathematical gobbledygook at this point, so let's look at a real deal. I've got a little house that's been newly renovated. It's worth $60,000, and I can buy it for $45,000. Market rent for this house is $750,000. So what I'm going to do is buy it for $45,000. I'm going to sell it for about 10% more than the cash sale price, which can be done easily with seller financing. So I'll sell it for about $66,000, and I'll ask for a down payment of about 10%. Let's say $6,000, and then I'll finance the rest, which is $60,000 for the buyer in a form of a note. But what will the interest rate of that note be? Well, that's easy. We let the market tell us. We already know that the property will rent for $750,000, and many people are happy to pay that, and that we want to market this thing as being available for the same price as rent. So all we do is take out the monthly cost for things like property taxes, insurance, and servicing fees, and what we're left is the amount we can collect in principal and interest. And in this case, after taking those things out, that number is $612.50 per month. Then with the help of my trusty-dusty, handy-dandy financial calculator, I see that if I want to finance the amount of $60,000 and receive payments of $612.50 per month for, say, 20 years, then the face rate of that note will be a whopping 10.83%. That's right, folks. You'll yield 10.83% for 20 years. And that's a beautiful thing. But Is that actually right? Well, no, it's not. The truth is even better than that, because while the amount you financed for the buyer is $60,000, remember that the amount you actually have tied up in the purchase of the property is only $45,000. So returning to my trusty dusty handy dandy financial calculator, what I learned is that by collecting the same amount of money per month, but by having only 45 grand invested rather than 60, well, your annual yield goes up to an eye-popping 15.6%. And remember, your capital is secured against the property. If the buyer defaults, which is statistically improbable on any given deal, then you can sell the property on the open market or even just resell it to another owner-financed buyer. With these deals, the downside is not distressing and the upside is truly beautiful. So my friends, those of you who have been itching to do a really great real estate note deal yourself, but you're having trouble finding a good note to buy, I've got great news for you. I'm now introducing the world's very first turnkey real estate note investing program, and you're going to love it. My team will do all the work for you. We'll find a great property that meets the parameters, perform the marketing to find a seller-financed buyer for you, and we'll put it all together in a pretty little package so that all you have to do is virtually nothing other than fund the purchase of the property, and shortly thereafter, you end up with a note that can pay you and pay you handsomely for decades to come. But we're only doing this as a test. I already know this strategy works. What we're testing is whether it's worth our time to offer this as a service. So I'll be taking on exactly 5 test clients, and 2 of those spots are already taken. Want to know more? Everything you need to know is in a short webinar at sdiradio.com/noteinvesting. Again, that's sdiradio.com/noteinvesting. Go over and check it out. If you're looking for a low-stress investment with a consistently high yield, you'll love what you're going to find there. My friends, invest wisely today and live well forever.
Thank you for listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio with Bryan Ellis. Don't miss a single episode. Be sure to subscribe to Self-Directed Investor Radio right now on iTunes, on Stitcher, and at SDIRadio.com. Your feedback is always welcomed via email at feedback@SDIRadio.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended as legal or professional advice for your situation. Content is the property of the Self-Directed Investor Society.